The sun hung high over the vast, rolling plains of Earth, its golden rays bathing the landscape in a warm, serene glow. Birds chirped lazily in the distance, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind provided a soothing backdrop to the otherwise quiet day. Yet, for Goku, the Saiyan warrior who had saved the universe more times than he could count, tranquility was a rare luxury. Today, he stood in the middle of a barren, cracked wasteland, his fists clenched and his eyes narrowed in focus. Across from him, his lifelong rival and friend, Vegeta, smirked confidently, his arms crossed over his chest. The two had been sparring for hours, their blows shaking the ground and sending shockwaves through the air. This was no ordinary training session, it was a test of their limits, a way to push each other to new heights. Goku's muscles rippled as he shifted into a fighting stance, his orange gi fluttering in the breeze. His black hair, spiked and wild, seemed to bristle with energy as he powered up, his aura flaring a brilliant blue. Vegeta, ever the proud Saiyan prince, mirrored his movements, his own aura igniting in a fiery crimson. The air between them crackled with tension as they prepared to clash once more. Goku launched forward first, his speed blinding as he closed the distance in an instant. His fist shot out, aiming for Vegeta's midsection, but the prince was ready. With a swift sidestep, Vegeta dodged the blow and countered with a spinning kick that Goku barely managed to block. The impact sent him skidding backward, his boots digging trenches into the ground. "Not bad, Vegeta," Goku said with a grin, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. "But you're gonna have to do better than that if you want to keep up with me." Vegeta scoffed, his smirk widening. "Keep up with you? Don't make me laugh, Kakarot. You're the one who's always trailing behind." The two charged at each other again, their fists and feet moving in a blur of motion. Goku's attacks were relentless, each punch and kick delivered with precision and power. Vegeta, however, was no slouch. His movements were calculated, his counters sharp and efficient. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered as their energy clashed, sending plumes of dust and debris into the air. Goku's Super Saiyan blue form shimmered as he unleashed a flurry of punches, each one faster than the last. Vegeta, now in his own Super Saiyan blue form, met him blow for blow, their fists colliding with thunderous force. As the battle raged on, Goku's mind wandered, if only for a moment. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, something beyond their usual rivalry. The air felt heavier, the energy around them more volatile. It was as if the very fabric of reality was straining under the weight of their power. He pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the fight at hand. With a burst of speed, he teleported behind Vegeta, his hand glowing with energy as he prepared to strike. But before he could land the blow, a strange sensation washed over him. Time seemed to slow, the world around him grinding to a halt. Vegeta's movements became sluggish, his expression frozen in a mask of surprise. Goku's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. Something, or someone, was manipulating time itself. The moment passed as quickly as it had come, and Goku found himself back in the heat of battle. Vegeta's fist connected with his chest, sending him flying backward. He landed hard, the impact sending a shockwave through the ground. Goku groaned as he pushed himself to his feet, his mind racing. What had just happened? He glanced at Vegeta, who was now standing with his arms crossed, a smug look on his face. "What's the matter, Kakarot?" Vegeta taunted. "Losing your edge already?" Goku shook his head, his expression serious. "Something's not right, Vegeta. Did you feel that?" Vegeta's smirk faded, replaced by a look of confusion. "Feel what? I didn't feel anything." Goku frowned, his brow furrowing in thought. If Vegeta hadn't noticed the time distortion, then it must have been targeted specifically at him. But who could have the power to manipulate time so precisely? And more importantly, why? He didn't have long to ponder the question before a voice echoed in his mind, deep and resonant, sending a chill down his spine. "Son Goku," the voice said, "you have grown strong. Stronger than I anticipated. But strength alone will not save you from what is to come." Goku's eyes darted around, searching for the source of the voice, but there was no one there. The voice continued, its tone ominous. "Time is not on your side, warrior. The threads of fate are unraveling, and soon, all you hold dear will be lost. Prepare yourself, for the battle you face will be unlike any other." The voice faded, leaving Goku standing in stunned silence. Vegeta noticed his unease and raised an eyebrow. "What's wrong with you, Kakarot? You look like you've seen a ghost." Goku shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. I don't know, Vegeta. But something's coming. Something big." Vegeta snorted, dismissing the concern. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it. We always do." Goku nodded, but the unease in his chest remained. He knew better than to ignore his instincts. Over the years, they had saved him more times than he could count. Whatever this new threat was, it was unlike anything they had faced before. And if it had the power to manipulate time, then they were in for a fight unlike any other. As the two warriors resumed their sparring, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the battlefield. The air grew cooler, the wind picking up as if in anticipation of the storm to come. Goku and Vegeta continued to push each other, their attacks growing more intense, their auras blazing brighter. But beneath the surface, a sense of foreboding lingered. The calm before the storm was over, and the battle for the very fabric of time itself was about to begin. Goku stood atop the jagged peak of the Kronos Mountains, his fists clenched and his breathing heavy. The sky above swirled with unnatural hues of purple and gold, a testament to the chaos unleashed by Krana, the temporal warden, who had declared war on existence itself. In Part 1, Goku and his allies had barely managed to escape her initial assault, a devastating temporal storm that had erased entire timelines. Now, as the dust settled, the stakes had only grown higher. Krana had begun to unravel the fabric of reality itself, and whispers of betrayal among Goku's allies threatened to fracture their fragile alliance. Vegeta landed beside Goku, his scowl deeper than usual. "Kakarot, this is getting out of hand. That witch isn't just playing with time, she's rewriting it. If we don't stop her soon, there won't be a universe left to save." Goku nodded, his usual optimism tempered by the gravity of the situation. "I know, Vegeta. But we can't just charge in headfirst. We need a plan." Before Vegeta could retort, a sudden tremor shook the mountain. The ground beneath them cracked, and a massive fissure opened, revealing a swirling vortex of temporal energy. From within emerged a new threat, a hulking, clockwork monstrosity with glowing gears for eyes and a body forged from shattered timelines. It roared, its voice a cacophony of screams from erased lives. "What the hell is that?" Vegeta growled, powering up to Super Saiyan Blue. Goku followed suit, his aura flaring as he prepared for battle. "I don't know, but it's not friendly." The creature lunged, its massive fists slamming into the ground where Goku and Vegeta had stood moments before. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the air, and the mountain began to crumble. Goku dodged to the left, firing a Kamehameha at the creature's chest. The beam struck home, but the creature barely flinched, its gears grinding as it absorbed the energy. "It's feeding on our attacks," Goku shouted. "We need to find another way." Vegeta smirked, his competitive spirit ignited. "Leave it to me, Kakarot." He launched himself into the air, his fists glowing with ki. Galit gun. The blast struck the creature's head, causing it to stagger but not fall. The gears in its eyes spun faster, and it retaliated with a temporal blast that froze Vegeta midair. Goku's eyes widened as he saw his rival suspended in time, unable to move. "Vegeta!" He charged forward, his body blurring with speed as he unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks. Each strike landed with precision, but the creature's temporal armor absorbed the blows. Goku gritted his teeth, realizing brute force alone wouldn't be enough. As the fight raged on, the rest of the Z fighters arrived. Piccolo, Gohan, and even Frieza, who had begrudgingly joined the alliance, appeared on the scene. Piccolo wasted no time, firing a special beam cannon at the creature's exposed joints. The attack severed one of its arms, but the limb regenerated almost instantly, its gears reassembling with a metallic screech. Gohan transformed into his ultimate form, his power radiating as he joined Goku in the assault. "Dad, we need to work together. We can't let this thing overwhelm us." Goku nodded, his mind racing. "Right. Let's hit it with everything we've got." Frieza, meanwhile, hung back, his golden form gleaming in the chaotic light. "How amusing," he sneered. "You monkeys are struggling against a glorified clock. Perhaps I should step in and show you how it's done." Before anyone could stop him, Frieza unleashed a barrage of death beams, each one aimed at the creature's core. The attack struck true, but instead of destroying the creature, they seemed to empower it. The gears in its chest began to spin faster, and its aura grew more intense. "Frieza, you idiot," Vegeta shouted, finally breaking free from the temporal freeze. "You're making it stronger." The creature roared, its power surging as it unleashed a devastating temporal wave. The Z fighters scattered, barely avoiding the attack. The wave struck the mountain, reducing it to dust and creating a massive crater in its wake. Goku landed beside Gohan, his expression grim. "This isn't working. We need to think outside the box." Piccolo nodded, his eyes narrowing. "The creature is fueled by temporal energy. If we can disrupt its connection to time, we might be able to weaken it." Gohan's eyes lit up. "What if we use the Dragon Balls? We could wish for a way to counter its power. Before they could discuss further, a voice echoed in their minds. It was Whis, the angelic attendant of Beerus. Goku, Vegeta, listen carefully. Krana's power is tied to the temporal nexus, a hidden realm where all timelines converge. If you can reach it, you might be able to stop her. But beware, the nexus is guarded by her most powerful creations, and time itself will fight to keep you out. Goku clenched his fists, determination burning in his eyes. Then that's where we're going. We'll take the fight to her. As the Z fighters regrouped, a new tension began to simmer. Frieza's actions had sown doubt among the group, and whispers of betrayal hung in the air. Can we really trust him? Gohan asked, his voice low. Goku sighed. We don't have a choice. Right now, we need all the help we can get. Vegeta crossed his arms, his expression dark. If that lizard double-crosses us, I'll take care of him myself. Piccolo remained silent, his eyes scanning the group. He could sense the unease, and it worried him. If they couldn't trust each other, they stood no chance against Krana. The battle against the clockwork creature resumed, but this time, the Z fighters fought with a new strategy. Goku and Vegeta combined their powers to create a massive spirit bomb, infused with temporal energy. Piccolo and Gohan focused on distracting the creature, while Frieza reluctantly provided cover fire. As the spirit bomb grew, the creature seemed to sense the danger and charged at Goku, its gears grinding furiously. Now, Vegeta, Goku shouted. Together, they launched the spirit bomb, the sheer force of the attack overwhelming the creature. It let out a final, ear-piercing scream before disintegrating into a cloud of temporal dust. The victory was short-lived, however. As the dust settled, a new threat emerged, a shadowy figure cloaked in temporal energy. It was Krana's second-in-command, a being known only as Eon. Fools, Eon sneered. You think you can stop the inevitable? Time itself bends to our will, and your resistance is meaningless. Goku stepped forward, his aura blazing. We'll see about that. The fight that followed was unlike any they had faced before. Eon's mastery over time allowed him to manipulate the battlefield, creating temporal loops and erasing attacks before they could land. The Z fighters struggled to keep up, their movements slowed and their attacks nullified. As the battle raged on, the cracks in their alliance began to show. Frieza, growing impatient, launched a reckless attack that nearly cost Gohan his life. You're going to get us all killed, Vegeta roared, his anger boiling over. Frieza smirked, his golden form flickering. If you can't handle the heat, perhaps you should step aside. Goku intervened before the argument could escalate further. Enough. We're not going to win if we're fighting each other. But the damage was done. The seeds of distrust had been planted, and the Z fighters would need to overcome their differences if they hoped to survive the challenges ahead. As the chapter drew to a close, the Z fighters stood battered but unbroken. The fight against Eon had pushed them to their limits, and the road to the temporal nexus loomed ahead. But with betrayal lurking in the shadows and time itself as their enemy, the question remained, could they unite in time to save existence, or would their own fears and rivalries tear them apart? The battle for reality had only just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The air crackled with tension as Goku and Vegeta stood back to back, their eyes locked on the swirling vortex of time energy that loomed before them. The battle against Kronos, the embodiment of time itself, had reached a fever pitch. The duo had already unleashed their most powerful forms, Goku in Ultra Instinct and Vegeta in Ultra Ego, but Kronos' mastery over temporal manipulation made him a nearly insurmountable foe. Just as Goku prepared to charge forward, a sudden ripple in the fabric of reality caught his attention. A figure emerged from the distortion, stepping into the battlefield with an air of calm authority. The newcomer was a tall, slender figure clad in a flowing, silver robe adorned with intricate clockwork patterns. His eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and his presence seemed to warp the very air around him. I am Kairos, he announced, his voice resonating with a strange, melodic cadence. The arbiter of moments, the weaver of fates. Your struggle against Kronos has drawn my attention, but I am not here to aid you, not entirely. Goku tilted his head, his curiosity piqued. Another time guy? Great. What do you want? Kairos smiled faintly, his gaze shifting between Goku and Vegeta. I am here to ensure that the balance of time is maintained. Kronos' actions threaten to unravel the very fabric of existence, but your reckless attempts to stop him are equally dangerous. You must tread carefully, or you risk destroying everything you seek to protect. Vegeta scoffed, his fists clenched. We don't need a lecture. If you're not here to help, then get out of our way. Kairos raised a hand, and time seemed to slow around him. I am not your enemy, but I am not your ally either. I am a wild card, a force of balance. And I will intervene if your actions threaten the stability of time. Before Goku or Vegeta could respond, Kronos unleashed a devastating temporal blast, sending shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Goku dodged with a burst of Ultra Instinct, his movements a blur as he countered with a flurry of punches. Each strike was precise, but Kronos twisted time around himself, causing Goku's attacks to phase harmlessly through him. Vegeta, meanwhile, charged forward with a roar, his Ultra Ego aura flaring as he delivered a crushing blow to Kronos' side. The impact sent the time deity staggering, but he quickly retaliated with a temporal claw that slashed through Vegeta's defenses, leaving deep gashes in his armor. Kairos watched the battle unfold with a detached calm, his expression unreadable. "You cannot defeat him with brute force alone," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Kronos exists outside the flow of time. To harm him, you must strike at the moments that anchor him to this reality." Goku glanced at Kairos, his brow furrowed. "What does that even mean?" Kairos extended a hand, and a shimmering thread of light appeared, connecting Kronos to the swirling vortex behind him. "See the threads of time? They bind him to this moment. Sever them, and you weaken his connection to this reality." Vegeta growled, wiping blood from his lip. "Why are you telling us this? What's your angle?" Kairos' eyes narrowed. "I told you, I am here to maintain balance. If Kronos is allowed to continue unchecked, the consequences will be catastrophic. But if you destroy him entirely, the void left in his wake could be equally devastating. You must tread a fine line." Goku nodded, his expression serious. "Got it. We'll take him down, but we'll be careful." With renewed determination, Goku and Vegeta launched a coordinated assault. Goku focused on disrupting Kronos' movements, using his Ultra Instinct reflexes to dodge and counter with blinding speed. Vegeta, meanwhile, channeled his Ultra Ego power into a massive energy blast, aiming for the threads of time that Kairos had revealed. The blast struck true, severing one of the threads and causing Kronos to stagger. But the time deity was far from defeated. With a roar of fury, Kronos unleashed a barrage of temporal blades, each one slicing through the air with deadly precision. Goku and Vegeta were forced to retreat, their movements hampered by the distortions in time. Kairos, however, remained unmoved. With a flick of his wrist, he created a temporal shield, deflecting the blades and giving the Scions a moment to regroup. "You're not bad," Goku admitted, glancing at Kairos. "But why not just help us finish this?" Kairos shook his head. "My role is to observe and intervene only when necessary. I cannot take sides, for my actions could tip the scales too far in one direction." Vegeta sneered. "Typical. Always someone standing on the sidelines, too afraid to get their hands dirty." Before Kairos could respond, Kronos launched a devastating attack, summoning a massive temporal storm that engulfed the battlefield. The storm's winds tore at the fabric of reality, creating rifts that threatened to swallow everything in their path. Goku and Vegeta struggled to maintain their footing, their auras flickering under the strain. Kairos, however, remained calm. With a wave of his hand, he stabilized the rifts, sealing them with threads of light. "This is the danger I warned you about," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "Your actions have consequences. If you are not careful, you will destroy more than just Kronos." Goku gritted his teeth, his body trembling with exertion. "We don't have a choice. If we don't stop him, he'll destroy everything anyway." Kairos hesitated, his gaze flickering between Goku and the storm. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. I will assist you, but only to restore balance. Do not mistake this for an alliance." With that, Kairos joined the fray, his movements fluid and precise. He wove threads of time around Kronos, binding the deity and limiting his ability to manipulate the battlefield. Goku and Vegeta seized the opportunity, launching a combined attack that struck Kronos with the force of a supernova. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the fabric of reality, and for a moment, it seemed as though the battle was won. But Kronos was not so easily defeated. With a final, desperate surge of power, he shattered the threads binding him and unleashed a temporal explosion that sent Goku, Vegeta, and Kairos flying. The battlefield was consumed in a blinding light, and when it faded, Kronos was gone. Goku groaned, pushing himself to his feet. Did we win?" Kairos stood nearby, his expression grim. "For now. But Kronos is not truly defeated. He has retreated to recover, and when he returns, he will be more dangerous than ever." Vegeta clenched his fists, his eyes burning with determination. "Then we'll just have to be ready." Kairos nodded, his gaze distant. "Be warned, the next time we meet, I may not be so lenient. The balance of time is fragile, and I will do whatever is necessary to protect it. With that, Kairos vanished, leaving Goku and Vegeta alone on the battlefield. The two scions exchanged a glance, their rivalry momentarily overshadowed by the gravity of the situation. The battle against time itself was far from over, and the addition of Kairos had only complicated matters. As they prepared for the next confrontation, one thing was clear: the stakes had never been higher. Goku stood panting, his fists clenched and his body trembling with exhaustion. The battlefield around him was a chaotic mess of shattered timelines and swirling temporal rifts, the very fabric of reality unraveling with every passing second. Across from him, the enigmatic figure known only as Kronos loomed, his form shifting and blurring as if he existed in multiple moments at once. The fight had been brutal, with Goku pushing himself to his absolute limits, but Kronos seemed untouchable, his power over time rendering even Goku's most devastating attacks ineffective. The stakes were higher than ever. If Kronos succeeded in his goal, all of existence would be erased, rewritten into a single, unchanging moment under his control. Just as Goku prepared to charge again, a sudden voice cut through the chaos. "Goku, wait." It was Vegeta, his voice strained but urgent. Goku turned, his eyes widening as he saw Vegeta limping toward him, his armor cracked and blood dripping from a deep gash on his forehead. Behind him, the rest of the Z fighters were scattered across the battlefield, battered and struggling to hold their ground against Kronos' temporal minions. "We can't keep fighting like this," Vegeta said, his tone uncharacteristically grim. "He's not just manipulating time, he's feeding off it. Every attack we throw at him only makes him stronger." Goku's heart sank as the realization hit him. That explained why Kronos seemed to grow more powerful with every blow they landed. Their efforts weren't just futile, they were playing right into his hands. "Then what do we do?" Goku asked, his voice tight with frustration. "We can't just stand here and let him win." Vegeta's eyes narrowed, a flicker of determination cutting through his exhaustion. "There's only one way to stop him. We have to disrupt his connection to the timeline itself. But to do that, we'll need to hit him with something he can't absorb, something that exists outside of time." Goku's mind raced as he tried to process Vegeta's words. Outside of time? What does that even mean? Before Vegeta could respond, a deafening roar echoed across the battlefield as Kronos unleashed a massive temporal wave, the sheer force of it sending both Goku and Vegeta skidding backward. The wave tore through the landscape, freezing everything in its path in a single, unending moment. Goku barely managed to dodge, his instincts screaming at him to move faster, but Vegeta wasn't so lucky. The Saiyan Prince was caught in the wave, his body locked in place, his expression frozen in a mask of defiance. "Vegeta," Goku shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. He lunged forward, but another wave of temporal energy forced him back, the sheer weight of it pressing down on him like a physical force. Kronos' laughter echoed through the air, cold and mocking. "You see now, don't you?" The time god sneered. "Your strength, your determination, it's all meaningless in the face of eternity. You cannot fight what you cannot touch." Goku's fists clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. He couldn't give up, not now, not ever. But how could he fight an enemy who existed beyond the reach of time itself? As he struggled to come up with a plan, a sudden memory flashed through his mind, a conversation he'd had with Whis during his training in the hyperbolic time chamber. True power, Whis had said, isn't just about strength or speed. It's about understanding the nature of existence itself. To transcend time, you must first understand it. Understanding. That was the key. Goku closed his eyes, forcing himself to focus despite the chaos around him. He reached deep within himself, tapping into the well of power that had always been his greatest strength. But this time, he didn't just focus on raw energy, he focused on the flow of time itself, the way it moved and shifted around him. He could feel it now, the subtle currents of temporal energy that Kronos was manipulating. And if he could feel it, maybe he could control it. With a roar of determination, Goku unleashed a massive burst of energy, the sheer force of it creating a shockwave that rippled through the battlefield. But this wasn't just a normal attack, it was infused with his newfound understanding of time. The energy tore through Kronos' temporal waves, disrupting their flow and forcing the time god to stagger back, his form flickering as if he were losing his grip on reality. "Impossible." Kronos snarled, his voice tinged with disbelief. "You cannot wield time as I do." "Maybe not," Goku said, his voice steady despite the strain. "But I don't need to. I just need to stop you." With that, he launched himself at Kronos, his movements faster and more precise than ever before. Every punch, every kick was infused with temporal energy, disrupting Kronos' control and forcing him to fight on Goku's terms. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, Goku felt a glimmer of hope. As the fight raged on, Goku's mind raced with new strategies. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever, his body was already pushed to its limits, and the strain of manipulating time was taking its toll. But he couldn't afford to stop, not when so much was at stake. With every blow he landed, he could feel Kronos weakening, his connection to the timeline fraying under the relentless assault. But just as Goku prepared to deliver the final blow, a sudden, searing pain tore through his chest. He looked down, his eyes widening in shock as he saw a glowing, temporal blade protruding from his body. Behind him, Kronos smirked, his form solidifying as he regained control. "Foolish mortal," the time god sneered. "Did you truly believe you could defeat me? I am time itself, eternal, unchanging. And now, you will join the countless others who have fallen before me." Goku's vision blurred as the pain spread through his body, his strength fading with every passing second. He could feel himself slipping away, the weight of his injuries threatening to pull him into the void. But even as darkness closed in around him, he refused to give up. He couldn't, not when so many were counting on him. With the last of his strength, Goku reached deep within himself, tapping into a power he had never dared to use before. The air around him crackled with energy as his body began to glow, a brilliant light enveloping him as he unleashed his ultimate technique. Kaioken. Times infinity, he roared, his voice echoing across the battlefield. The sheer force of the attack tore through Kronos' defenses, the time god's form shattering under the onslaught. But the victory came at a cost. As the light faded, Goku collapsed to the ground, his body broken and his energy completely spent. He could feel himself slipping away, the weight of his injuries too much to bear. But even as darkness closed in around him, he smiled. He had done it. He had stopped Kronos. And that was enough. As the battlefield fell silent, the Z fighters gathered around Goku, their faces etched with grief and determination. They had won, but the cost had been high. And as they looked out at the shattered remains of the timeline, they knew their fight was far from over. But for now, they would honor Goku's sacrifice, and prepare for whatever came next. The air crackled with tension as Goku stood atop the jagged cliffs of the time nest, his fists clenched and his eyes locked on the swirling vortex of temporal energy before him. The revelation that time itself had become sentient and hostile had sent shockwaves through the Z fighters. Kronos, the embodiment of time, had declared war on all existence, seeking to erase the concept of past, present, and future. The stakes had never been higher, and the clock was ticking, literally. Kronos had begun unraveling the timeline, erasing entire eras and leaving only void in their wake. Goku and his allies had to act fast, but the enemy was unlike anything they had ever faced. Vegeta landed beside Goku, his scowl deeper than usual. "Kakarot, we can't just stand here gawking. That monstrosity is tearing apart reality, and we're running out of time." Goku nodded, his usual grin absent. "I know, Vegeta. But we can't just charge in. Kronos isn't like any enemy we've fought before. We need a plan, and we need to get stronger, fast." The two scions exchanged a determined glance before flying back to the hyperbolic time chamber, where the rest of the team was already gathering. Inside the chamber, Bulma and Whis were working feverishly to analyze Kronos' energy signature. "This is insane," Bulma muttered, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. "Kronos isn't just manipulating time, it is time. Every second we waste, it grows stronger." Whis nodded, his usual calm demeanor tinged with urgency. "Indeed. Kronos feeds on the flow of time itself. The more we fight, the more it consumes. We must find a way to disrupt its connection to the temporal stream." Meanwhile, Goku and Vegeta began their training, pushing themselves to new limits. Goku experimented with a new technique, combining Ultra Instinct with the Kaioken, while Vegeta focused on refining his Ultra Ego form. The chamber's environment shifted around them, creating chaotic landscapes of lava, ice, and gravity distortions to simulate the unpredictable nature of Kronos' attacks. In one intense session, Goku narrowly avoided being crushed by a collapsing mountain, only to be struck by a barrage of temporal energy blasts that aged him rapidly. He powered through, his body adapting and reversing the effects, but the close call was a stark reminder of the stakes. As the training intensified, the Z fighters forged new alliances. Piccolo and Android 17 teamed up to develop a strategy for disrupting Kronos' temporal fields, while Gohan and Trunks worked on a joint attack that combined their unique energy signatures. Even Frieza, ever the opportunist, reluctantly agreed to lend his power, though his motives remained suspect. "Don't mistake this for altruism," he sneered. "If time itself is destroyed, even I won't be able to conquer anything." The breakthrough came when Bulma and Whis discovered a key weakness in Kronos' structure. It's anchored to a specific point in the timeline, Bulma explained, pulling up a holographic map. If we can isolate and attack that anchor, we might be able to destabilize it. Whis added, but reaching that point will require precise timing and immense power. One misstep, and you could be lost in the void forever. With the plan in place, the team prepared for their final assault. Goku and Vegeta led the charge, their auras blazing as they tore through the temporal distortions surrounding Kronos' core. The fight was brutal and chaotic, with time itself warping around them. At one point, Goku found himself reliving his first battle with Frieza on Namek, only for the memory to shatter into a storm of temporal shards. Vegeta, meanwhile, was forced to confront visions of his past failures, but he powered through, his resolve unshaken. As they closed in on Kronos' anchor, the enemy unleashed its full power, creating a labyrinth of time loops and paradoxes. Goku and Vegeta fought side by side, their attacks growing more experimental and daring. Goku used the environment to his advantage, redirecting a temporal blast into a nearby black hole to create a shockwave that momentarily stunned Kronos. Vegeta, tapping into his Ultra Ego form, absorbed the surrounding temporal energy and unleashed a devastating counterattack, but the strain nearly overwhelmed him. Just as it seemed they were gaining the upper hand, Kronos retaliated by accelerating time around them, causing their bodies to age rapidly. Goku's hair turned gray, and Vegeta's muscles began to atrophy. But in their darkest moment, Gohan and Trunks arrived, their combined energy attack disrupting Kronos' acceleration field. "We've got your backs," Gohan shouted, his eyes glowing with determination. With the team reunited, they launched a coordinated assault on Kronos' anchor. Goku and Vegeta delivered the final blow, their fists colliding with the anchor in a blinding explosion of energy. For a moment, it seemed as though time itself had stopped. Then, with a deafening roar, Kronos began to unravel, its form dissolving into streams of light. As the temporal storm subsided, the Z fighters stood victorious but exhausted. The timeline had been saved, but the cost had been immense. Goku looked at his hands, still trembling from the strain of the battle. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse. Vegeta grunted, crossing his arms. "Don't get too comfortable, Kakarot. This was just one fight. Who knows what else is out there?" The team returned to the time nest, where Bulma and Whis were already analyzing the aftermath. "Kronos is gone," Bulma confirmed, "but the timeline is still fragile. We'll need to monitor it closely." Whis nodded. "And you all need to rest. You've earned it." As the sun set over the time nest, Goku gazed at the horizon, a faint smile returning to his face. The battle had pushed them to their limits, but it had also shown them the strength of their bonds and the depths of their potential. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For now, though, they could take a moment to breathe, and prepare for the next fight. The battlefield was a chaotic storm of energy, debris, and desperation. Goku stood at the center of it all, his golden Super Saiyan aura flickering like a dying flame as he faced the embodiment of time itself, Kronos, a towering figure cloaked in swirling temporal energy. Kronos' form shifted constantly, his body a mosaic of past, present, and future, his eyes glowing with the cold light of inevitability. The air around him warped and twisted, as if reality itself struggled to contain his presence. Goku clenched his fists, his muscles trembling from exhaustion, but his resolve burned brighter than ever. "Time's not gonna beat me," he growled, his voice cutting through the cacophony of the battlefield. "Not today." Kronos raised a hand, and the world seemed to slow. Goku felt the weight of time pressing down on him, his movement sluggish, his reflexes dulled. But he refused to yield. With a roar, he channeled every ounce of his remaining energy, his aura exploding into a blinding light as he ascended to Ultra Instinct. His silver hair shimmered, and his eyes glowed with a calm, otherworldly focus. The oppressive grip of time loosened, and Goku surged forward, his movements a blur of precision and power. He launched a flurry of punches and kicks, each strike aimed at Kronos' core. But the temporal deity was no ordinary foe. With a flick of his wrist, Kronos created a temporal barrier, deflecting Goku's attacks with ease. "You cannot outrun time, mortal," Kronos intoned, his voice echoing with the weight of eons. "Your efforts are futile." Goku gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He knew brute force alone wouldn't be enough. He needed to adapt, to find a weakness in Kronos' seemingly invincible defenses. As Kronos unleashed a barrage of temporal energy blasts, Goku dodged and weaved, his Ultra Instinct reflexes allowing him to evade the attacks by the narrowest of margins. But even Ultra Instinct had its limits. Goku could feel his body straining under the pressure, his energy reserves dwindling with each passing second. He needed a new strategy, and fast. Meanwhile, Vegeta had joined the fray, his own Super Saiyan blue form crackling with raw power. He had been observing the battle from the sidelines, analyzing Kronos' movements and searching for an opening. "Kakarot," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to hit him together. His temporal barrier can't withstand simultaneous attacks from multiple angles." Goku nodded, a determined grin spreading across his face. "Let's do it," he replied, his voice filled with renewed vigor. The two Scions moved in perfect sync, their movements a testament to years of rivalry and camaraderie. Vegeta charged forward, his fists glowing with energy as he unleashed a devastating barrage of punches aimed at Kronos' left flank. At the same time, Goku launched a high-speed assault from the right, his attacks a blur of motion. Kronos' temporal barrier flickered under the combined assault, cracks beginning to form in its once impenetrable surface. "You insects dare defy me?" Kronos roared, his voice laced with fury. He retaliated with a massive temporal shockwave, the force of which sent both Goku and Vegeta flying backward. But the Scions weren't done yet. As they crashed to the ground, they exchanged a quick glance, a silent understanding passing between them. They had pushed their limits before, and they would do it again. Goku's aura flared, and he began to power up, his energy surging to unprecedented levels. Vegeta followed suit, his own aura merging with Goku's as they prepared to unleash their ultimate attack. "Now," Goku shouted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. The two warriors launched themselves at Kronos, their movements perfectly synchronized. Goku's fists glowed with the energy of a spirit bomb, while Vegeta's hands crackled with the power of a final flash. They struck Kronos simultaneously, their combined energy overwhelming his temporal barrier and shattering it into a million fragments. Kronos staggered backward, his form flickering as the sheer force of the attack disrupted his temporal essence. "Impossible," he roared, his voice filled with disbelief. "You cannot defeat time itself." But Goku and Vegeta weren't finished. As Kronos struggled to regain his composure, Goku tapped into the depths of his Ultra Instinct, his movements becoming even more fluid and precise. He darted around Kronos, landing blow after blow, each strike chipping away at the temporal deity's defenses. Vegeta, meanwhile, unleashed a relentless barrage of energy blasts, his attacks raining down on Kronos like a storm of destruction. The battlefield was a maelstrom of energy, the sheer intensity of the clash shaking the very fabric of reality. Kronos, realizing the gravity of the situation, began to tap into his own reserves of power. His form solidified, and the air around him crackled with temporal energy. He raised his hands, and the battlefield began to warp, time itself bending to his will. Goku and Vegeta found themselves caught in a temporal loop, their movements repeating endlessly as Kronos sought to trap them in an inescapable cycle. But Goku's Ultra Instinct allowed him to break free, his mind and body moving beyond the constraints of time. He reached out to Vegeta, his hand glowing with energy as he severed the temporal loop binding his comrade. "We're not done yet," Goku said, his voice calm but filled with determination. The two warriors launched one final, desperate assault. Goku channeled every ounce of his remaining energy into a single, devastating punch, his fist glowing with the combined power of Ultra Instinct and the Spirit Bomb. Vegeta, meanwhile, unleashed a massive final flash, the energy beam cutting through the air like a blade of pure destruction. The attack struck Kronos simultaneously, the force of the impact creating a blinding explosion of light and energy. When the dust settled, Kronos stood battered and broken, his form flickering as his temporal essence began to unravel. "You have defied the inevitable," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "But time cannot be defeated. It will always endure." With those final words, Kronos dissolved into a swirling vortex of temporal energy, his form dissipating into the void. Goku and Vegeta collapsed to their knees, their bodies spent but their spirits unbroken. They had pushed past their limits, adapted to an impossible foe, and emerged victorious. As the battlefield fell silent, Goku looked up at the sky, a weary but triumphant smile on his face. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with quiet satisfaction. Vegeta grunted in agreement, his pride evident even in his exhaustion. "Don't get used to it, Kakarot," he replied, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Next time, I'll be the one to save your hide." The two warriors sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their victory settling over them. They had faced the embodiment of time itself and emerged victorious. But as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, they knew their journey was far from over. The universe was vast, and new challenges awaited. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of rest, their bond stronger than ever as they prepared for whatever lay ahead. The air crackled with tension as Goku stood at the edge of the temporal rift, his body battered and his spirit pushed to its absolute limit. The fight against Kronos, the embodiment of time itself, had dragged on for what felt like an eternity, though time itself had become meaningless in this shattered dimension. The once vibrant battlefield was now a chaotic void, fragments of past, present, and future swirling around them like shards of broken glass. Kronos loomed ahead, his form shifting between moments, a child, a warrior, a decaying elder, his voice echoing with the weight of infinite ages. You cannot defy me, son Goku. Time is inevitable. It consumes all. Goku clenched his fists, his muscles trembling from exhaustion, but his eyes burned with unyielding determination. Maybe time is inevitable, he growled, but I'm not done yet. Not while there's still a chance to protect everyone. The final clash began with a deafening roar as Goku surged forward, his Super Saiyan blue form flickering like a dying flame. Kronos retaliated with a wave of temporal energy, distorting the space around them. Goku dodged and weaved, his movements a blur, but even his speed was no match for the relentless erosion of time. Every punch he landed seemed to evaporate into nothingness, every kick slowed by the weight of ages. Kronos laughed, a hollow, echoing sound. You see? Your efforts are futile. You are but a fleeting moment in the grand tapestry of existence. Goku gritted his teeth, his body screaming in protest, but he refused to falter. I don't care about your tapestry. I fight for the people I love, and that's enough. As the battle raged, the other Z-fighters watched from the sidelines, their own energy nearly depleted. Vegeta, battered and bloodied, struggled to his feet, his pride warring with his desperation. Kakarot, he muttered, his voice hoarse. You stubborn fool. Don't you dare lose. Bulma's voice crackled over the comms, her tone frantic but determined. Goku, listen. Kronos' power is tied to the flow of time. If you can disrupt his connection, even for a moment, you might be able to weaken him. Goku nodded, his mind racing. He had one last card to play, a technique he had been refining in secret, a fusion of ultra instinct and his own indomitable will. He closed his eyes, focusing on the rhythm of his heartbeat, the flow of his energy. The world around him seemed to slow as he entered a state of perfect clarity. With a sudden burst of speed, Goku vanished, reappearing behind Kronos in a flash of silver light. His movements were fluid, almost ethereal, as he unleashed a barrage of strikes that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Kronos staggered, his form flickering as the temporal energy around him began to destabilize. What? What is this? He demanded, his voice tinged with fear for the first time. Goku didn't answer, his focus unbreakable. He channeled every ounce of his remaining energy into a single, devastating attack, a Kamehameha infused with the essence of ultra instinct. The beam erupted from his palms, a blinding torrent of power that tore through the fabric of time itself. Kronos screamed as the energy engulfed him, his form dissolving into a cascade of shimmering particles. The temporal rift began to collapse, the chaotic void folding in on itself. Goku fell to his knees, his transformation fading as exhaustion overtook him. The battlefield was silent, the weight of what had just transpired settling over everyone. Vegeta limped over, his expression unreadable. You did it, Kakarot, he said quietly, his voice tinged with grudging respect. You actually did it. Goku managed a weak smile, his body trembling. We did it, he corrected. I couldn't have done this without everyone. The rift continued to collapse around them, but instead of destruction, it seemed to be repairing itself, the fractured timeline stitching back together. The Z-fighters watched in awe as the universe began to heal, the scars of the battle fading into memory. In the aftermath, the world was forever changed. The defeat of Kronos had not only saved the present but also altered the flow of time itself. The future was no longer set in stone, and the possibilities were endless. Goku and his friends returned to Earth, their bonds stronger than ever, but the weight of their victory lingered. They had faced the embodiment of time and emerged victorious, but the cost had been immense. Goku, ever the optimist, looked to the horizon with a renewed sense of purpose. No matter what happens, he said, his voice steady, we'll face it together. That's what makes us strong. The others nodded, their resolve unshaken. The battle against time had been their greatest challenge yet, but it had also been a reminder of what truly mattered, the bonds of friendship, the strength of the human spirit, and the unyielding will to fight for a better tomorrow. And as the sun set on a world reborn, the Z-fighters knew that their journey was far from over. The future was theirs to shape, and they were ready to face whatever came next.